Welcome to Pick Up and Deliver, the podcast where I pick up my audio recorder as I get off the train and deliver an episode to you while I walk home. I'm Brendan Riley. Well, good morning, listeners, or good afternoon, listeners. I am on my way home from work on a lovely day here in mid-September in suburban Chicago. It is the Monday after Gencon, so I'm a little tired. It was an exhausting weekend. You can hear my voice is a little shredded as well. There was an awful lot of talking. But yeah, it was a great trip, and I thought I would share some of my experiences with you here while we get back into the rhythm of podcasting. So for those of you who don't know or didn't listen to the last episode, Gencon is the best 4 days in gaming. That's what they call it. It is a tabletop and board game convention that takes place in Indianapolis, Indiana each summer. But this year they held it in September instead of June, or instead of August. For the convention, we did a number of things. Mostly I was working at the booth for XYZ Game Labs. I went down very early Friday morning and spent Friday, Saturday, and Sunday with the group helping work the booth and show off my new game, Titania Ascending, which is coming to crowdfunding in late October. This is very exciting to share this. We've been working on this game for a while, my design partner Rob and I, and this was kind of the big premiere of it. We had Titania in our show ad. We had it at the table right next to Arch Ravels, which is our very popular yarn and knitting game, and we were using it to show to people what the game is about. I made a video in which I play the game with the people watching the video, and so the idea is you can take the map and I'll play the game with you and you can see whether or not it's a game you'd like to play. That's the idea anyway. We did get some feedback that makes me think I need to edit the video a bit to make it a little more playable. We have a program called Titania's Vanguard where we are gathering people to come support the game, and we're just trying to get in front of as many eyeballs as we can. In that regard, we did have a couple playthroughs with a number of notable board game media folks. I regret that I can't remember them all. There were quite a few different podcasters and writers, some of the ones that perhaps are a little bit more well-known. We got to sit down and play the game with Jeremy Howard from Man vs. Meeple and his own channel. We got to play the game with Ryan, I think it's Ryan Strum, also from Man vs. Meeple. We were able to show the game to Gary from Dice Tower News, Rachel Blasky from You Are Invited, and Ruel Gaviola, who has his own channel, but also I know him best from his podcast and web show that he does with Richard Hams, that's Rado, called the R&R Show. I also got to meet and talk to W. Eric Martin, the head editor of Board Game Geek News, who took a look at the game and tweeted about it. So from the hobnobbing with, and Stephen Bonacore, how did I leave that out? Stephen Bonacore, the the founder and former president and CEO of Stronghold Games, who has sort of moved into being a board game enthusiast and somebody who does a lot of promoting of the community and is really generous with his time. He also came to that playtest. So, boy, it was a really nice setup and really nice to get to show the game to lots of different people. Like I said, we had a number of different media outlets as well that came through that we talked to. I was able to show the game to, just a lot of people. So that was very satisfying. One of the highlights of the weekend was at one point on Sunday, somebody came up and wanted to buy the game. And I said, I'm sorry, this game is going to crowdfunding in October. And she said, I didn't understand. I thought you were selling it today. I'm like, nope. I sort of pitched the crowdfunding campaign. And she said, well, I was buying it for a friend, so I don't know if she'll do that, but she took a flyer. And I said, if I can just ask, how is it that you were buying it for a friend? And she's like, well, my friend asked me, she said I was buying it for a friend. She texted me and asked me to pick it up. And I asked how it was that she was buying it for a friend, and or the friend thought she was buying it. And she said, I don't know, Twitter. So there's a really fun upcurrent of the game generating some buzz. So it's very exciting. If you haven't taken a look at it yet, I have a link in the show notes for today for Titania Ascending, our cooperative flip and write game in which you play the High Council of Titania, the Queen of the Fae, leading an invasion into Earth. In the game, you will first fill up your maps. You write your individual realms, collecting bonuses and skills. And then in the second half of the game, you use the realms that you built by shading them in and sort of solving the puzzle that you created in the first half. Very exciting times. I'm looking forward to seeing what happens in the next couple months as the game continues to be refined and becomes more well-known. So what else did I do at Gencon? Like I said, I worked the booth most of the time. I got very good at doing a quick demo of Arch Ravels as well, so that people could understand what that game was about. That is our knitting and fibercraft themed game. I did get to do a number of other things at the con. I walked the floor a couple times. I picked up a couple games for myself, a couple games as gifts, and got to check some things out. The games I got for myself, I found Alien Artifacts, which is a game I've had my eye on for a while. I've heard it's fun. I love the art style. It's from Portal Games, but I've never really pulled the trigger. It was always like $20, and for a game I didn't know a lot about, $20 seemed a lot. But they had it at Gen Con for $10, and for $10 it was very hard to say no, so I didn't. I picked it up. And then from Arcane Wonders, I picked up the hottest new engine builder, silky smooth engine builder, and that is Furnace. I picked that up with the playmat, which also got me a promo card. So I have all the goodies for that game. Looking forward to trying that one. Maybe on Tuesday. And then I also picked up a game for a friend of mine, which I'm not going to say. I don't think he listens to the podcast, but in the off chance that he did, you don't get to know what game you got, Paul. And then I picked up, for my wife, I picked up Cascadia, which is a game about using tiles to place animals, like in the national park or in big parks. In the reviews that I've read, it sounds a lot like Calico, but not as tense. So I think it will be a good fit for our family. And then when I bought Cascadia from AEG, they also tempted me into buying promos for Calico and a promo for Cascadia and the mini expansion for Santa Monica, which adds a little bit to it. And with all three of those things, then they also threw in another game. I had a choice between Scorpius Freighter, which is a science fiction game of some sort, and Inner Compass, which is a game about characters trying to find their true path or something. Neither game is probably one I would have bought if it weren't free, but it's hard to turn down free. And honestly, Scorpius Freighter is a game we already had at Toggle. So if I want to play that, I can try it out at Toggle. So I picked up Inner Compass. I definitely want to get that played, because if it isn't something I want to keep, I can sell it or donate it to Toggle. So that was my experience on the floor. The convention floor was significantly less busy than in previous years. There are a lot of companies that decide not to come because of the intensity of the pandemic. I will say that everybody at Gen Con seemed pretty comfortable with masking up. I didn't see anyone walking around without masks on. So that was a nice element. Gen Con was very strict about that. I didn't feel unsafe, even though there were lots of people coming around. Of course, I'm vaccinated, so the risk of breakthrough was relatively low. And my whole family's vaccinated, so there wasn't much risk of me bringing back something to cause problems in the house. Even if I did get infected, my family's vaccinated as well. So, like I said, everybody seemed like they were being pretty safe. Lots of hand sanitizer being used. Everybody was being pretty good about masking. I can't say the same about the general Indiana public. I suspect if I was exposed to COVID at all on this trip, it was at the Culvers on the way home, because at the Culvers they were not being very good about masking, and they all had masks on their faces, but they weren't covering their mouths and noses, which was weird. Sort of in my head it said that somebody in management had been told they have to wear masks by Culver's corporate, and so they said, well, you have to have the mask on your face, but I don't care how it fits on your face. And so all the employees were sort of wearing them on their chins, was frustrating, and I didn't say anything. I probably should have, but... So what else did we see at Gen Con? They had lots of great exhibits. There were lots of events that I was not able to attend because we were working the booth pretty consistently. I did get some game playing in Saturday night. We met up with some of our friends from Toggle Gaming, and we played a couple games. I got to try out Ares Expedition, which I will talk about in an upcoming Shooting from the Hip episode. We played a round of Space Base, which is always a fun time. I got second place. I thought I was going to win it, but one of the other players scooched ahead of me in the last turn, and I ended up beating me 46-42. So that would have been fun to win that, but not surprising that I didn't. I didn't get to do a lot of demoing. That's usually the case when I'm working a thing. I don't also then spend a lot of time demoing. I was a bit frustrated. There were a couple games I really wanted that were not available. Like they did not have Merchants of the Dark Road yet. I probably would have bought that if it had been available. I guess that's the big one that I really was looking at or interested in. Overall, Gen Con, it felt like Gen Con Light. The general experience of Gen Con in previous years has been a crush of people. Normally, Gen Con has about 60,000 people at the convention. This year, they were limiting it, this year they said it was 30,000, so half as many people. And you could definitely feel that in the different spaces. The hallways were much less crowded. It was very easy to walk around in the exhibit space. You never had to wait to be able to go by a mob of people, which was not uncommon. Last 2 years ago in 2019, if you were trying to get somewhere in the exhibit hall, sometimes there would just be a bunch of people waiting to go, and you have to kind of wait, like in heavy traffic. When everybody stops, you have to stop too. That was not the experience this year. That said, we did have lots of people come by the XYZ Game Labs booth, and I got to see lots of different people. There was some fun cosplay. One guy, I will share, there was one guy who was cosplaying. I think it was cosplaying. He was wearing white slacks, white briefs that were sticking up from the waistband of his slacks a little. I guess I don't know for certain they were briefs. I guess they could have been boxer briefs or who knows what. But the top of them looked like a waistband from a pair of briefs. And he had a black belt, and he had a number of pieces of equipment on his belt, including a walkie-talkie. He wasn't wearing a shirt, so he's wearing white pants with a walkie-talkie and no shirt, and then his Gen Con badge around his neck. And he was walking around the exhibit hall the whole time. So my question, and this is the question for you listeners, is, was he cosplaying someone? And if so, who? If he was not cosplaying someone, that's a bold way to get to do the thing you want to do. If you want to stroll around without your shirt on, what better place to do it than Gen Con? Just make your outfit look a little goofy, and you can say you're cosplaying somebody. And then you can walk around without your shirt on all you want. It was a fun innovation, I thought, and I was sort of amused every time I saw him go by. There were lots of great t-shirts. We got to meet lots of neat fiber crafters, because the Arch Ravels, the knitting themed board game, draws in a lot of people who are into that sort of thing as well. And so it was fun to talk to them. All in all, it was a great experience and really fun. I am a bit sad I won't be going to Origins in a couple weeks, which is the next game convention. It just doesn't work in terms of my family obligations for me to go to that one. We also came back with a number of ideas for revising or refining Titania Ascending as we move toward crowdfunding in October. Seems like a good opportunity for us to get everything just right. We did hear from a couple of the more seasoned game developers that they had some thoughts, and so we're waiting to hear what those are. Like I said, I'm also going to refine the how to play video, and I also need to film a solo play video so that if you want to try the competitive version of the game, you can do so. And that one will be a full game. The one that I have already is a partial game that allows you to try out the game without, you play about 2/3 of it just to get a feel for it. Whereas in the competitive one, it'll be able to be the whole game. Did you go to Gen Con? What did you think? Be sure to hop over to Board Game Geek Guild 3269 and let me know your experiences either at Gen Con or on Gen Con Online. Well, thanks for joining me on my walk today. I hope that your next walk is as pleasant as mine was. Bye-bye.
Brought to you by Rattlebox Games.